Hello everyone and welcome back to the perfect Fallout 4 playthrough. In this episode, I'm going to become idolized with every companion in Fallout 4. The reason why you would want to become idolized with every companion is because each companion gives you a unique perk. Among these, the best perks in my opinion are McCready, Preston, and Deacon, but they are all beneficial in some way, and for this perfect playthrough, I'm going to get all of them. To raise affinity with companions, you just need to do the things they like. The most efficient way to gain affinity is simply travel with the companions and do the things they like from time to time as you complete quests. Even if you do this, however, you'll still find yourself needing to grind the affinity of several companions. This is especially urgent for companions who may no longer be available after you make certain story decisions, so I'll show you some ways to grind affinity for specific companions. There are a few important things to note about affinity. First, there are hidden cooldowns on affinity gains for repeatable actions, such as modifying weapons or armor, lockpicking, stealing, or pickpocketing. These actions have an in-game 48-hour cooldown built in. Other affinity gaining actions only have a 2-hour cooldown, such as eating corpses. Yeah, strong is a bit weird, but I'm not here to kink shame. As for repeatable actions, first there are repeatable locks you can pick, such as the one found in Fiddler's Green Trailer Estates. You can use the terminal to set the lock and then pick the lock and repeat, though you do need to wait 48 hours between each lockpick for the hidden cooldown to pass. This method can be used to grind affinity with Kate, Deacon, Piper, and Gage. Modifying a weapon or armor also gives an affinity gain with some companions. Simply use the weapon workbench and apply a mod to any weapon or armor. You can use a mod which you already have, so you don't need to use the materials each time you do this. This method also requires waiting 48 hours between each use for the cooldown timer to pass. Codsworth and Dance love when you do this, and X688, Gage, and Preston like when you do this. It's good to put all 5 of these companions in the same settlement with a weapon and armor workbench to grind all of their affinity simultaneously. However, the best way to grind affinity, and this is going to be really sad, but let's remember this is just a video game. If you use a stimpak on Dogmeat, 7 companions, Curie, Longfellow, Piper, Deacon, Kate, Valentine, and Codsworth will all like it. This is repeatable every 2 hours, which is much more bearable than the 48 hours required for other strategies. So send these 7 companions to a small settlement. In my case, I used Murkwater construction site. I tried Boston Airport, but it didn't work out well. I also moved all other settlers away, including the provisioner, because they may become hostile if you attack Dogmeat too much. Also, be sure that Dogmeat is your active companion. If he isn't your companion, then you won't be able to use a stimpak on him. Now it's time to injure Dogmeat, who, again, is simply a 3D rendered model intended to trick us into having feelings for him. For my character, the easiest way is to sneak melee attack him, but you can also use gravity by telling this series of pixels to go high atop a structure and then remove the structure underneath him. You may want to mute your volume so you don't hear the whimpering sound carefully chosen by a Foley artist to generate the maximum sympathy from the player. Now, simply stimpak Dogmeat and watch the affinity rise with all 7 of these companions simultaneously. Sleep for 2 hours and repeat this process until all companions are idolized or your soul is completely crushed and you decide to become a monk wandering the world aimlessly for the rest of your life. For the remaining companions, Dance loves when you modify weapons and armor, so that's the least painful grind. X688, Preston, and Gage also like when you modify weapons and armor, and you can get an extra bump for Dance and X6 by hopping in and out of power armor. Preston can get to maximum pretty quickly if you keep him as a companion while helping settlements, as he loves when you do that. Gage and Hancock can be leveled by picking the lock in Fiddler's Green Trailer Estates. Hancock also likes when you use Kims or get naked around him. McCready likes when you steal, so I usually bring him with me while I loot the mini nuke in Good Neighbor. I also brought McCready for a lot of side quests, as he likes when you negotiate for extra money. Strong is the worst companion to grind because he pretty much hates everything you do. The easiest way to level his affinity is by unlocking the cannibal perk and eating corpses. This can only be done every 2 hours, but if you keep him around while doing various kill quests or grinding mobs in Nuka World, he'll eventually get to max. Note that Curie, McCready, Kate, and Nick Valentine all have companion quests which must be completed before their affinity can be maxed, and Dance requires a certain amount of progression in the Brotherhood of Steel to finish his affinity. Once the companion reaches idolized, simply talk to them and the perk will be permanently added to your character. From here, I'm going to mention a few extra things about companion perks which will give away big story details detail, so if you're worried about that, here's another video you can watch instead. There are several companions who will be lost forever depending on your story progression. X688, Deacon, and Dance will all become hostile if you become hostile with their respective factions, and depending on how you handle Nuka World, either Gage will become hostile or Preston will no longer talk to you. Gage will normally head back to Nuka World after you dismiss him before you create any raider settlements, but if you dismiss him in a settlement, you can move him where you want and even assign him to a task. That's how I'm able to level his Affinity and Preston's at the same time. Now that I have all the companion perks unlocked, I can move on with the story in the way I see fit. So I think in the next episode, I'll be focusing on finishing up the main story of Fallout 4 in the most perfect way possible. So be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. It helps me out a lot, and it will ensure that you'll get notified when the next episode of the Perfect Fallout 4 playthrough is released. And until next time, remember, to survive in the wasteland, you gotta be efficient.